Welcome to the Play to Win podcast, where we talk about winning. In cEDH, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Cameron.
Today we're doing something a little bit new, but to be fair, this is our third podcast.
Everything we do is new.
Everything is new, but we're going to be going over some of the new Decklist Database entries that have been made onto the cEDH Decklist Database. Every month or so, or maybe sometimes less than that, a little bit more than that, there are a whole bunch of new entries added to the DDB. If you don't know what that is, it is basically one of the most popular, in my opinion, cEDH resources for finding new decks. Normally, a deck isn't really considered a cEDH deck until it makes it onto this list, which is a little bit silly, but it's a good, it's a good way to put all of the decks in one spot.
It is. It's a good indicator to kind of figure out what the format might look like and what some of the tools are that are being used to attack some of the best decks in the format, too.
Since we don't have tournaments in our format, really, there's really no way to look up deck lists and look up to see what's the best.
There's no, top 8s that are getting posted all the time.
So this is, in my opinion, one of the better resources for that. So today we're going over the new additions to the list as of September 8th. Which was a little bit ago at this point, but it was the most recent one. We're going to go over some of what I think are the most interesting decks that have been added to the list. I'm not 100% sure if these are the only new commanders added. The way the Decklist database is set up for newest entries, it includes all of the other lists that are just updated versions. But these are the ones that stood out to me as new entries and I think bring something new potentially to the format.
Exactly. And I think that there's a lot of them that are really going to make a cool splash that we may get to see a little bit more too. So do you just want to hop into some of these then? Let's do it.
Let's just start with the first one.
Let's do it.
Here.
Well, one of my favorites that is added to the list is the Thrasios Crown Tonnos Control.
This is a teamer control deck that aims to slow down the game with counterspells, interaction, maintain card advantage with various creatures' enchantments, and eventually win the game with Dockside Extortionist and Kinnan Bonder Prodigy combos.
That's what it says. That's what it says it does.
That's what it's supposed to do.
What it actually does is something pretty close to that, it seems. Yeah.
It seems like a very cool deck. It plays Oko. I like Oko.
You never see Oko, but I've always
often.
thought that Oko does have some pretty good potential in terms of it can just get rid of people's commanders.
It's a
outright.
great. It's a little bit more expensive than a Gilded Drake, about 50% more expensive than Gilded Drake, which is unfortunate.
But it's a reusable Gilded Drake.
But a reusable one. So yeah, I think it does add a lot of value if you're trying to do this type of gameplay and if you're trying to control the board. I like Oko a lot. Besides that, it's pretty much a standard Thrasios deck in rug colors. A lot of the mana dorks that you'd expect to see. Obviously, like the description said, it's playing Kinnan, so there's Kinnan and Basalt Monolith combos in here. Vexing Shusher, Priest of Titania, and there's a few different ways to combo with Dockside Extortionist, Teamer Sabertooth, and Baron Master Wizard are the first ones that I see.
It's a Blood Moon deck as well.
Yeah, we're playing Magus the Moon and Blood Moon, which is kind of cool. It doesn't look like this is the deck that's trying to win as soon as possible. You're trying to stop the first or second player.
It's dirtily. You get to muddle the mixtures in here. Like you will have time to transmute muddle the mixture.
Factual counterspell, which normally doesn't make the cut anymore.
I love that. I'm so excited about that. And you get to play cards like Submerge and not really care about life loss due to things like Ad Nauseam. So you can play Force of Vigor too is in here as well. And it's helpful when you have Teamer Sabertooth as one of your main win conditions too. Like cutting out black for some of the cards in black, because that's the thing, like the black cards are very powerful, but they all cost you some sort of life.
Right.
Like Ad Nauseam competes with Necrospace, which also competes with the
Peer into the Abyss.
Peer into the not really Peer into the Abyss works even if you have already cast one of those other ones.
That's true, but it is
Fire
a
Covenant,
7-hit off of Ad Nauseam.
That's true, yeah. And Fire Covenant's the other one I'm thinking of too. Like that's another life card that you get to play in the space. But it's kind of nice where you won't necessarily have to worry about that. And something that's awkwardly annoying for me now as a person playing a black deck is that I am constantly getting hit down by all of the creatures that have just recently populated the format.
Yeah, you're the first target no matter what if you're playing black.
So it's slightly annoying. So
it's almost an advantage to not play black.
Exactly, which I feel like they've kind of
taken advantage of.
Exactly here. And you're able to pressure the Ad Naus decks with Crown even then too.
So this might be a good spot if you're trying to beat the Ad Nauseam decks, slow them down with Blood Moon, pressure them with Crown, counter their stuff since you're playing a little bit higher a more amount of counter spells. You can control the board a little bit more.
Exactly. I completely agree. I love this deck. It's everything that I want to be doing.
My only negative is my personal deck is a Thrasios Bruise deck, and I think the addition of white is a huge include to this style of
there's
deck.
A bunch of, like, because I'm playing Vial Smasher just right now, and that's, like, there's
so adding
a
fourth color does
too.
add a lot. But you get to play basics, which means that you are, better against other Blood Moons, and you're playing Blood Moon yourself.
Yeah, so you have that.
It's a different way to go.
It is.
Next deck we have here.
I love this too. He used to be on the Decklist database, but was taken off for a while. He's back, the one and only Rorick Thar, featured in Snoop Thar.
Snoop Thar is an adaptive creature-based mid-range deck that preys on non-creature heavy decks. It leverages early mana dorks, disruptive hate bears, and quick combo lines to win. Snoop Thar is unique among cEDH decks for adopting the one-card combo of Goblin Recruiter into conspicuous Snoop Pile. Our game plan is to soften up life totals with Thar, help answer early combos as needed, and then develop a board state or hand that allows us to advance comfortably towards a win.
All right. So, Rorick Thar, like I said, dropped out of the meta a little bit ago, and, really wasn't something that we saw prominently and really could keep up with.
Yeah, the printing of conspicuous Snoop, making Goblin Recruiter basically a Doomsday, I think is a huge addition to any deck playing red, because now all you need is the Goblin Recruiter and a way to crack a pile with, I think, 3 mana, and you can win the game. With one-card combo. I mean, 1 card plus the way to draw a card, which, unfortunately, Rorick Thar does not have a way to draw on a card on him, which is a bummer.
Yeah, exactly. But the nice part about this is that, this is a color combination that we never get to see in cEDH.
Yeah, there are no other Gruul cEDH decks on the database. I don't see any lists, any commanders popping up in cEDH for Gruul. It's just...
No.
Although the colors are good, I think this is a weird combination where it's just there's no good commanders.
There's no good commanders. They're missing a bunch of the card advantage engines that are in a lot of the other colors too. But with green, like, there's still enough tutors where you don't really need a lot of that extra card advantage as well, because you're just able to go find the creatures you need in order to kind of go off. And there's a lot of creature combos in here too. I mean, I'm seeing Splinter Twin combos as well. There's, Quirion Dryad, Quirion Ranger, a bunch of those kind of
And one of the things that I'm seeing off the bat that I like about this deck is it's not playing bad cards. Sometimes when you're in these low color combination decks, I think you have to play a lot of bad cards.
Yeah.
Tender Shoot Dryad maybe is a bad card, but I do understand why it's there. It does help you grind into the late game. If you want to take over the board, I understand why it's there. Creator Hoof Behemoth is strange. You don't actually really see that one.
Works great with Tender Shoot Dryad.
But yeah, it's pretty good with Tender Shoot. And Orin Frostfang is in there to draw some cards, along with obviously Sylvan Library and some of the other ones.
One of the better card draw engines in creature-based.
Yeah, it draws. It is a big beefy Tymna. And you're
really
playing
is.
OK Adversary. Green has gotten a decent amount of ways to draw cards in the past few years. I feel like
really have. Well, it's been Green's year between 2019 and 2020. So.
But yeah, this it still plays Wheel of Fortune. You don't have any payoffs, but a decent way to draw cards.
You don't need them.
This deck is playing a lot of stacks pieces, trying to slow down the board. A lot of mana, a lot of dorks. It's even playing Llanowar Tribe as a ways to really get ahead on mana. And I think your main goal here is to legitimately beat face until you can find a Snoop combo. I like this deck. I don't know. It's not a tournament deck for me. I don't think I would ever bring something like this to a tournament.
I wouldn't build this deck for my own play.
No, but
I would play this deck if we put it on the channel.
Yeah, definitely. And if this is your strategy, I think this is you'll win enough. You know what I mean? You'll win enough games. It'll be fun enough, and you'll interact enough with the game that it'll still be interesting. You'll still be in it.
Exactly.
I think.
All right, the next deck we're going to talk about is someone who has a candelabra, Tonnos, in Tonnos Control.
This deck aims to control the game using counter magic, stacks effects, long enough to execute one of multiple game-winning combos. The primary combo in this deck uses the commander, Tonnos, to generate infinite mana during the upkeep. Since Tonnos himself is very cheap and assembling a 2-card combo with the deck's commander is very easy, especially if there are many available tutors, this deck can win relatively fast for a control deck, giving it a slight edge on slower decks in the format while still being able to keep up with the faster decks. So I guess this is the deck that you're playing if you for some reason don't want to play Niv Mizzet, but you still want to be in Izzet.
What? That was like a Dr. Seuss kind of sentence.
Yeah, it was
right
a little
there.
bit. This deck is, I believe, if I'm not wrong, I thought I saw this deck on The Spike Feeders a little while ago. I think they played it.
Any deck that runs 24 artifacts, I already really like.
Yeah, I'm paying attention. Urza in the main board, not as the commander, is pretty interesting. Playing Magus of the Moon, so there's probably some other light stacks. Yeah, there's a lot of control here.
Yeah, but looking for the actual combo, looking for the actual like combo win conditions, I assume that we're doing things.
Sands of Time. Yes, this is definitely the deck that I've seen before. This deck is weird, and I couldn't even begin to explain how this combo works. Sands of Time is a 4-mana artifact. Each player skips his or her untap phase. At the beginning of each player's turn, untap each tapped artifact, creature, or land he or she controls, and tap each untapped artifact, creature, and land he or she controls. This card is a weird one, a mix of a stacks piece and a combo piece. If I'm looking here, it's a 4-step combo. During your upkeep, Sands of Time will trigger, hold priority on the trigger. In response, activate Tonnos, copying the trigger. Then tap all other lands and artifacts you control for mana. Let the copy resolve, untapping all of your lands and artifacts in addition to Tonnos. Since you now have Tonnos untapped and more mana, you can repeat this loop by continuously copying Sands of Time's triggers for infinite mana and activation of artifacts, creatures, and lands you control during your upkeep. This combo also works with Stronic Resonator, Lithoform Engine instead of Tonnos if you don't have it for whatever reason.
That is fucked.
That's a lot.
What is happening?
So
there's so much shit that's going on with this.
With infinite mana in your upkeep, you have to either have an onboard Walking Ballista, Staff of Domination, Sensei's Divining Top, or Urza Lord High Artificer already in play. Or you can Blue Suns, Pull from Tomorrow, or Stroke of Genius and draw your whole deck in your upkeep, or most of your deck.
And then just mill everybody else out instead.
Interesting. I mean, it's definitely different. I don't see anything like this. I mean, having a one-card combo with the commander is always interesting, right? It's worth looking at.
But it's also not, because you also need like one of those other creatures in play too. If you're not doing,
you need one of like 7 other cards as well. So it's like a 1-point sum.
It's one
of
those decks that like the first time you play it against the table, you crush them because they have no idea what's happening. But then the second that like you play game 2 and 3, they go, oh okay, as long as I kind of keep your board clear, there's really not too much you're going to be able to do.
Right. Whether or not they can do that, that depends. A lot of decks are skimping out again on removal, going more in towards ad nauseum. So maybe the decks just don't have the removal. No one's got the Nature's Claim, and you can just get them.
And this is what happens when that goes on. That you get decks like this that show up, and with a really cool Lithoform Engine.
Yeah,
the new Zendikar card.
New Lithoform Engine is a 4-mana legendary artifact with 3 different abilities. For 2 and tap it, you may copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. For 3 and tapping it, you may copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. And for 4 and tap it, you may copy target permanent spell you control. Which, if I'm not mistaken, that's the first time that ability has been on a card.
Worded that way.
Copy a permanent spell. That's weird as shit.
Which is very interesting, because that means you can do that on the stack.
Yeah, which means that you can like copy your dockside. That's fun.
So even if people are still going to counter your dockside, you're still able to get a dockside.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Deck's definitely doing a lot of cool stuff. Definitely unique take. Probably can win a couple of games. I like it. Let's go on to the next one.
So the next one's a deck that we actually had on the channel before. This is Yogmoth in Yogmoth Undying Control.
Whenever Yogmoth marks dies, there is no escape. Sabo Tavik. That's the first line here of this bio here. Draw engine, mass removal, and part of a 3-card combo in its own right. Yogmoth Thran Physician is a flexible commander with devastating potential at all points of the game. Turbo out a quick storm kill or grind your opponents to dust. The grand evolution is inevitable. Yogmoth craves only one commodity: glory to Phyrexia.
So the 2 words, go back to that real quick. The 2 words that completely explain how this deck performed on the show: devastating potential.
Yeah, there's a lot that you can do with Yogmoth.
But does it happen?
But finding 3-card combos is tricky. Now, I am excited to see this. I think the list that we were playing before had some questionable choices.
It was not optimal.
But maybe this one is better. I mean, I see Peer into the Abyss. Obviously, I like that. Ad nauseum. Phyrexian Libation. I do not like this card. I do not think
Pharika's Libation is the card.
I don't think it's worth anything.
So it's not. It will be changed to the new card from Zendikar once that's printed, because then you'll still have targeted enchantment and creature removal.
And that card is destroy target creature or enchantment.
Or
right?
enchantment,
that's such a great addition that you can take out this garbage Freakus Libation card.
Exactly.
This card is horseshit, so being able to swap it out with a playable is super nice. That's
and the other issue that we had too was that a lot of the undying creatures that were cheap were really bad. But this one's playing like Treacherous Pit Dweller, which isn't great either, but it's still not absolutely terrible. Like, so I guess 4/3 for 2 mana.
It has an ETB that you can respond to. So I guess when Treacherous Pit Dweller enters the battlefield from a graveyard, target opponent gains control of it. If you respond to that with Yogmoth and you can sack it, I think you can keep going with your combo. So I think if that works the way I think it does, I like that. And then Giralf's Messenger is obvious, and Butcher Ghoul is obvious. Not playing the 4/1s. I like not playing the 4 mana Undying creatures. I think those cards are just not good enough.
They're just big dead cards.
Although you need the Undying, I understand how important it is. 4 mana is just too much for a card that doesn't do anything.
And you're in black. You have all the tutors.
You have all the tutors in the world. This deck seems like it's playing every single one.
Even Scheming
Symmetry. Yeah, this deck is definitely cool. Cabal Therapy is interesting, so it's really going hard on the hand disruption. I think as mono black, you kind of have to. And Bridge from Below, that's a weird one.
That is a weird one.
I like it. That's pretty good with Yogmoth.
I'm kind of into that too.
And Bolas' Citadel too. So hopefully are we doing Aetherflux? No Aetherflux Reservoir. Just a regular old fashioned Bolas' Citadel power.
That's still a really
still
good.
Fine. I would find a way for. I mean, you're already playing as top. Is there not any? Maybe there's just no reason to play Aetherflux. Maybe it's unnecessary, but.
Because you're still going to be able to win, I guess at that point, if you have top and Bolas' Citadel going.
You should be able to get it from there.
You would think.
But yeah, this deck is cool. It's mono black, so it's pretty restrictive on how much it can actually interact on the stack, which is why the hand disruption, I think, is necessary.
Agreed.
And you're playing a decent amount of bad cards. Memnite and Omnithopter and Phyrexian Walker. You're playing bad cards, which is
4/0 mana creatures that are just not good and not really going to do
They're
too
good
much.
with Yogmoth, but if someone plays a Drannith Magistrate, then, man, you have a whole bunch of... I mean, hopefully you would have already played your 0 mana creatures, but you understand what I mean. If
boy, oh boy.
Turn 1 mana straight, you know what I mean? Your game plan is shot. But as far as a mono black deck goes, I like what I'm seeing here. I'm liking everything in there. And since you're one color, you get to play Emergent Zone. That's always good.
Oh boy, the next one here. Here's another card from 2020 here. This is Nethroy in Protean Cat.
This is a fast combo deck using both Razaket's strategy and Hulk Pile backed up by Nethroy to cheat out cards like Protean Hulk and Razaketh, the Foul-Blooded, many reanimation... Many reanimation spells are played. Nethroy's ability is used if it's the first attempts to combo. What the fuck, these writers, man? If the first attempts to combo off has failed to reanimate the relevant pieces, this is what Nethroy is used for. This makes the deck less fragile and not too dependent on the early game. This one's interesting. I play Nethroy in casual. I love it. It's been a super fun blast to play. I don't know about it in competitive, but I mean, Razaketh is a good card. Doing a Razaketh strategy, I think, is powerful if you want to be in Reanimator.
I think a lot of the times what happens with these kind of strategies is that this is like a Razaketh deck that isn't really trying to play blue, but there's really not a better commander out there that's well equipped to deal with this.
Yeah, it's just this is the only one. If you want to be playing Abs and Reanimator strategy, this is the only deck.
This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna play.
I think I would play actual Razakats over this, though. I think I would want just Thrasios and Tymna in the command zone instead, and have this same strategy. I think that'd probably be better.
So I would assume that Nethroy here. Go to the. We're gonna cut this out a little bit here. The primer probably explains like if you.
The general concept of this deck is to quickly get the combo and line enablers into the graveyard and cheat them onto the battlefield. Because we are not playing an interactive deck, try to do this as fast as possible. Nethroy is your man. If your first attempts will fail, concentrate on either Hulk or Razakats, because the probability is higher that one strategy will not work fast enough if there is no focus on it. So you're kind of playing this as like a Kess commander. Kess is pretty good at doing the same thing. Kess really is only used if your first attempt fails. You don't cast Kess unless you're trying to go again. So this is kind of the same idea. Getting up to 7 mana is just a lot. It
is a lot. That is the issue.
Lot.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're trying for it, yeah, go for it. If you want to do your thing, go for it.
But it even says, like, right here, weaknesses, no blue.
And right under it, it's slower than Virals and less value than TNT.
Which right there, to me just goes like, this is nice. Like, you have an option if you want to play junk, but we're here at play to win. We want to play to win.
So this deck is sweet. I mean, like I said, I play Nethroy casual, and I think it's a super fun commander, and I love it. But yeah, I think I would as it says here. I mean, there's probably a reason why you'd pick neither Varals nor Razakets, and you go somewhere in the middle. It just says because this is more resilient, perhaps, but I think having blue gives that resilience.
I think you kind of really want blue.
And Thrastios is so good.
Exactly.
Next one here is this is a pairing that I was actually working on in my own free time, and someone beat me to it.
This is Ikra Crown Turbo Nos.
A Sans White turbo ad nauseum strategy that focuses on powerful early strats to end the game quickly, focusing on common Grixis core and fast ad nauseum strategies in conjunction with Underworld Breach and Dockside Extortionist. When it's unable to win quickly, it can utilize the powerful card advantage engine Crom provides while keeping ad nauseum relevant and lethal even in the later stages of the game through Ikra Shadiki's life gain.
Ikra Shadiki is definitely one of the best ad nause commanders in terms of making sure that your life total is high enough to be able to get most of your deck in your hand.
She gains 7 life on her own, and if you have Crom out too, that's 11 life every time you hit.
That's so many cards. That's so many cards you'd be able to get.
This deck is sweet. I mean, it's very similar to the Crom Timna deck. That's either Freeze Thief or Blue Farm or whichever variant of that you're playing.
This is without white.
This is the Grixis splashing green instead of splashing white.
Black, green.
With that, you get Birds of Paradise, Deathrite Shaman, Elves of Deep Shadow, some more mana, Elvish Spirit Guide, Noxious Revival, Carpet of Flowers, Veil of Summer, Worldly Tutor, Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, nice so includes. Some additional disruption in that way too.
So instead of with white, you get the main thing is Savine's Reclamation and Silence. Instead of that, you're kind of replacing those with Veil of Summer, Worldly Tutor, Sylvan Library's nice draw, a little bit more ramp, a little bit less protection than that other version. I think this deck is sweet. It's very powerful. I would definitely play this deck.
I think so too. This also looks like it's right up my alley here.
Anything that is, using Underworld Breach, I think Underworld Breach is one of the more stronger strategies you can go for.
I think it's probably the direction that you want to be in right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Or you want to be attacking right now.
Yeah. Next up,
we have another deck that is very familiar to the show. This is Winona in Winona Snowball Stacks.
We recently put this game on the channel. It was supposed to be a gameplay video of 4 color combinations that are not represented on the cEDH Decklist database.
Whoop-de-doo. Now 50% of them are.
Yeah, this one popped on there 2 days after we posted it. But Winona Snowball Stacks seeks to be an explosive stacks combo deck that wants to play non-human creatures early and then play its commander. Winona cheats creatures into play at an alarming rate, and the deck can overwhelm the board quite easily. The explosive nature of the deck in combination with its tightly layered combos allow for the first real opportunity for Boros to play at the competitive tables, which I think is a great description of this deck.
I agree. If you're a commander or commander-like card that gets banned in Brawl, everyone's eyes are
something
on
to
you.
Look at, right?
Yeah.
The snowball ability of Winona is something that I overlooked at first. If you're attacking with 3 non-humans, that's a whole lot of cards that you get to look through.
Oh, yeah. Look at this. 43 creatures. When have you seen a deck list like that?
This has got to be the most creatures in maybe any cEDH deck. You're playing some weird ones. Wily Goblin
That's
is a
not
weird
a weird one. Wily Goblin would be so good in this deck. You don't have a lot of ramp in these colors. So being able just to get 1 treasure token, even off of like an attack from an Ornithopter,
and
that's a free Lotus Petal with a 1/1.
And it still gets, you're right, it gets to trigger Winona, which is very nice. Archon of Emeria, which is a new card that's going to be played in all of these white stacks. This is a perfect home for it. Non-creature with flying. It's exactly what this deck wants.
Exactly. You get to play you get to play Combat Celebrant Infinite combos as well to get infinite attack steps. You also have your typical Kiki Jiki combos as well.
All the Kiki lines with Splinter Twin. A lot of Rule of Law effects.
Because you can also play the Goblin Recruiter lines in here as well. Legion Warboss, just as additional ways to get more non-humans that can attack and get you some humans, or however it works. I can never remember the order of things.
You get humans with them.
That's what it is.
Attack
you
with
get humans when you attack with
The
non-humans.
humans come in. But the issue that this deck has, I think, is a similar issue to Yogmoth, where if you don't have your commander, or if someone plays
a Draneth Magistrate
effect or Gilded Drake or something like that, you're stuck with a whole lot of bad cards. But Winona is trying to win before that can happen. You're trying to win by turn 3, but things are going to go wrong, right?
Exactly.
Stuff's going to happen.
And remember, a lot of your stack's pieces don't hurt you, which is very nice. And not necessarily every single stack can say.
Yeah, you can gain parity pretty quickly with this deck, I think.
And when you have so many redundant pieces of like Thalia effects, like it's really nice to be able to have like 2 or even up to 3 of those effects and just really shut off
those ones stack
other
up
players.
pretty quickly. Having your spells cost 2 more is much different than having them cost 1 more. And that can make it almost impossible for some decks to win.
Yeah, no, I think this is the best Boros deck out there. I think it's got the strongest legs, and until we get a better Boros commander, this is what we got.
This is definitely the one, I think. Next up is our last one on the list here.
This is Kels Fighter Fixer. No, it's not. It's Kels Fight Fixer is what she is. It's the Fight Club is what this deck is. The
Kels Consultation. This is a mid-range deck that tries to quickly combo with either Isochron Scepter, Dramatic Reversal, or Thassa's Oracle Jace, with Laboratory Maniac or Demonic Consultation Tainted Pact, but can play a control role if necessary. Kels acts as an outlet for Isochron Scepter, as well as being able to generate card advantage or pressure life totals and planeswalkers.
So the way that she works with the Scepter combos is that she's able to sacrifice herself so that you can draw a card and then recast her with your infinite mana from your Scepters. That way, you're able to draw through your entire deck and piece together a win from there.
I imagine this deck is basically Una with an easier to cast commander.
With arguably a better commander, because there were very few times where Una was actually using her ability to win, unless you were just trying to style off.
Una was really never anything. If you played Una, you were in a bad spot. But Kels, if you played like turn 1 Soul Ring, turn 2 Kels with Force of Will up or something, you can start putting menacing pressure on some people. I think Kels is a step up from Una if you want it to be an Una.
I agree. Now, there is something to be said about, again, Draneth Magistrate effects. Like, you do need to make sure that those are off the table before you're able to win with this. But, I mean, you're playing a lot of great ways to be able to do that in Chain of Vapor.
You have a ton of removal. You have a ton of counter magic. This deck is blue-black, so it's the only color combination that I think you get to be in only 2 colors and play no bad cards.
Exactly,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. And you get to play, there's this list is featuring the new Seagate Stormcaller as well, which has Kicker, and whenever it enters the battlefield, you can copy an instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 2 or less. The next one that you cast this turn.
Yep.
And if it's kicked, you get to copy that one twice. So if you are able to, get this off, you can do
2 demonic tutors,
same things with demonic tutors.
You can
counter spells even. If you're
make sure your
in
consultation
that
has 2 copies on the stack to make sure that it gets through a little easier.
That's true as well.
This is Seagate Stormcaller. I think is going to be a great include into a lot of blue decks. I'm personally thinking about trying it in my Thrasios Bruise deck because if you Neoform a Seagate Stormcaller that you cast this turn, you get to get 2 3-drops.
Yeah.
You can get Zerda and Trophy Mage, and with your Trophy Mage, get Basalt Monolith, and then there you have a winning condition right there with only 2 cards and 7 mana, I guess. So I mean, it might not be super effective, but a lot of those cards you're already playing or want to be playing in Thrasios.
So it's an easy include.
It's worth. I think it's worth trying. I'm gonna try it out. Bitter Blossom and Dreadhorde Invasion are interesting includes into this deck. I imagine they work pretty well as sacrifice creature fodder for Kels to sacrifice them and draw a card. Not bad. You can pressure players who are playing black cards. You can hold the blockers for Tymna decks with them.
Which is still pretty good.
It's something. If you want to be controlling, if you want to put up some blockers and guard your own life tool, it can be good for that as well.
I like this deck. I mean, any blue-black deck is going to be great, and I'm just all for an even better.
You've been playing Damnation too, so you're really kind of leaning into the control strategy.
Yeah, and I think that goes to show where the format's at too.
Yeah, where
these are cards that we're going to play in our 2-color decks.
But that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So what do you think about all these new decks?
I like a lot of them. I think Kels is good. Winona is solid. Ikra Crom is probably the most powerful, I would imagine. Just it's 4 colors and it's doing a strategy I think is most powerful. Nethroy is fine. Yogmoth is great, but weak to certain strategies. Tonnos is cool. I wouldn't pick it. Rurik Thar is cool. I wouldn't pick it. And Thrasios Crom, also cool, but I wouldn't pick it.
Oh, I don't know. I really like that. This is the thing, is that a lot of these decks that we're seeing now, it's not, some of them aren't because we have new commanders that are enabling new strategies, but a lot of them now are just kind of like meta answers. Things that now, where it's not the new cEDH meta anymore, it's
People
not post-Flash, anymore.
We are in ad nauseum town. Ad nauseum town.
Exactly. This is the new world of ad nauseum. Well, I guess not the new world, but a returned world of ad nauseum.
Yeah, what do you think about the decks we talked about today?
I don't think that there's anything new here that's going to completely bust open the format that people are going to need to have answers prepared for. I think this is just a lot of like the same stuff that we're seeing, and there's not really, I think as long as your deck is kind of keeping up with where the meta is at in general, I don't think that you're going to have too much to worry about with these decks coming in. Right. That being said, I'm always excited to see extra decks enter the format, especially creating new strategies and even like new partner pairings that you don't see often, like Thrasios and Crown.
Yeah, that's definitely fun.
Omitting a fourth color is something that has a lot to be said about there too.
And it's nice that Rorikthar is making the list because it's branching out what you can play as a commander in cEDH, because for a while it was either card advantage engine or combo piece. But Rorikthar feels that kind of third niche that Lavinia kind of fills, also as
having a stacks piece.
A powerful stacks piece in your commander can also be powerful in the right meta.
But it does have to be powerful. And Roriktar's numbers
pretty
on
good
it
against
are
Underworld Breach.
Pretty good against Underworld Breach. And again, another meta commander that gets entered because of it.
But that's it. That's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you guys so much. We'll let you hear us next time. Hear you guys. We don't hear you. You hear us.
See you next time.
See ya, everybody.